Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing yet another movie review, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a crime thriller from the Philippines. This is spoken in the Filipino, Tagalog and English language with English subtitles. Released in the year 2013, directed by Eric Maddie, and this film is called On the Job. So On the Job is actually based on real events that happened in Manila, the Philippines, where you've got corrupt government officials who used inmates as assassins. Basically, they would organise for the inmates to be released for a period of time, carry out the hit, and then go back into the jail and no one would suspect them. And so this is what the government had been doing for quite a while, and this is their vie for power. So a detective who's in charge of these recent murders, who has no idea what's going on, has to actually uncover the truth, and the truth that he ends up uncovering actually is related to his father-in-law, who happens to be one of those who are in power. So whether or not the father-in-law is involved is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I am going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on the job. This says it's based on real events, and you really have to take that slogan with a grain of salt, because a lot of films claim to be based on real events, but they're only very loosely claimed. But when I read about this this actual story, I thought, all right, well, this is in fact real. This actually happened, and that's very, very interesting for me, because it's something that would never happen here in Australia. And so coming into a film based on a real story that was actually quite unbelievable, I thought, all right, well, I definitely have to give this one a shot. It was also exciting for the fact that I hadn't really seen a Filipino film before, so this is a new experience, and I was hoping it was an experience that would be worth it, and thankfully it was. I thought this was actually quite a riveting thriller. It was a movie about corruption. It was a movie about those that we hold in high regard, that they're to protect us, but when these people that we trust actually are doing very shady things, all of a sudden the vulnerability comes into play. So vulnerability is definitely a driving factor of this film, and I thought Eric Maddie did a very good job at sustaining that level of interest. As the corruption unfolds, the plot thickens, and the domino effect starts to take place, and therefore all hell breaks loose. And so I thought it was actually quite riveting in that regard. And as far as storytelling is concerned, this is actually quite an impressive film. It actually reminded me of a Martin Scorsese film. You know, if you like movies like The Departed, where you've got corruption within a workforce where the main character is actually working, then you're going to like what On the Job does. This is a very gritty film. It's a very, very raw movie. The cinematography creates a hellish environment, so it's very atmospheric. So the violence is extremely hard hitting. There are some scenes that were really shocking. There are some very good gore effects, and I thought the ending took me by surprise as well. And so the overall characters, I thought they were very two-dimensional. That was my only issue with this movie, is that they weren't quite as in-depth as you would get with a Martin Scorsese film. But overall, I like the intricate web of corruption that this movie takes place, and as each character threatens to be uncovered, then something happens to actually escalate the situation. And so it's basically a whole cat amongst the pigeons. So all hell is breaking loose, and you never feel as though each character is really that safe. So the main character is supposed to be the good guy, but ultimately, can you trust this guy? Because the department that he's working for is so corrupt that it does bring a lot of uncertainty. And so the suspense levels are there to really match the atmosphere, which is something that I really liked. It goes for nearly 2 hours, but I never thought as though it outstayed its welcome, because the overall story always it's always developing, and so it snowballs into a way where I actually sustain my interest, and I never felt as though this movie really outstayed its welcome. But as I said, if I have a problem with the movie, I would have liked a little bit more insight into these characters. Now, you're supposed to feel sorry for some of these inmates, you're supposed to feel sorry for the main character, but I never really got to know these people. I never really got to get into this world and really immerse myself into these really shady dealings. I thought as though these were characters that I couldn't really relate to on a personal level, because this is a world that was so foreign to me. I'm not in the criminal world, so why should I care about these despicable people? Because it's not ultimately having a negative effect on the outside world, the clean world, and so it's basically shady people doing shady things to each other, and you have to ask yourself as the viewer, why do I care? And ultimately in this movie, I didn't really care as much on a personal level. I just cared because the curiosity was always there. So it maintains that curiosity, and as far as filmmaking is concerned, it's a very hard thing to do. So having characters that were very two-dimensional was only a very minor blemish in what was an impressive first experience in the Philippines. If you are a fan of Asian crime, then On the Job is definitely one I would recommend. It's based on a very interesting true story. This thing actually really happened. How true it is exactly, I'm not from the Philippines, so I couldn't really tell, but I thought as though it handled it in a way where it does come across as a fairly competent thriller, but I felt as though it lacked that human emotion that other great thrillers, made by Martin Scorsese has. So that was unfortunate, but overall still a very worthwhile film. I'm going to give On the Job 3.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.